So, another week, another tactical breakdown. Welcome back to the Mike Live in 5 channel, where today we're going to be going over the 3-1 defeat at Spurs. I've had a bit of time to digest the result now. I'm recording this on Wednesday morning, and I think kind of initial takeaways from the result. Obviously, I think we went to Tottenham with a bit more hope than we did with the games against Man City and Liverpool. But that second half, I thought we could go and take it to Tottenham. We had a couple of chances here and there. But I think if you look at the game overall, we were very lucky to go in at half-time at 2-1. Probably very lucky to actually only concede 3 goals in the game. I think on the balance of play, Spurs had a lot of chances. I think they created the most XG that any team has created in the Premier League this season. But there were chances for Brentford to get back into the game. And had we taken some of those chances, maybe the result could have been different. But we won't know. But obviously today we're going to go through some of those big chances, some tactical tweaks, all the rest of it that we did in the last video. And thank you so much for the response on the last video. I really enjoy making these. Hopefully this is something we could do going forward more often. Come back to this channel, which is at Mike Live in 5. Drop a subscribe, drop a comment down below, like the video, share it with your mates. I'm really trying to make this channel like one of the biggest sort of Brentford content channels around. I know it's not your traditional podcast or anything like that, but it's something a bit different and something that I think there's a gap in the space for. Especially with these tactical breakdown videos, which, like I said, I really like doing. If you haven't already checked out our full podcast on the Ealing Road podcast account, go do that now. It's a full house. Callum returns. It's a lot of laughs. We kind of make light of the result. And yeah, that was a really fun episode to record. And we also throw ahead to West Ham on Saturday. And yeah, lots of interesting chat about the selections Thomas Frank could make on Saturday, because I feel like there's quite a few up in the air with that in terms of who's going to play left back, who's going to play left wing, do we go to a back four, does KLP keep his place, where does Sharda go? All really interesting, so do go and check that out if you haven't already. And like I said, yeah, drop a subscribe to this channel, trying to make this grow as much as possible in its infancy. So let's just get straight into today's video. So first screenshot I want to start with is KLP's assist for Bryan Mbeumo's goal. And I just want to highlight KLP in this, just because I feel like he's really coming into his own this season. Especially playing at that left wing-back role, which I feel like maybe last year he wasn't so adept at, but this year especially, if he's going to be our left wing-back going forward, who knows where Rico Henry is, but if he's going to be our left-back going forward, I'm really confident in him, to be honest. He get Brennan Johnson's threat down, especially, I know Brennan Johnson ended up scoring, but you could argue that the 1v1 defender in that situation was Nathan Collins, and we're going to get onto that. But in terms of going forward, KLP's ball retention, his ability to keep the ball in tight situations, his progressive carries. I was looking at his stats earlier, and in terms of fullbacks within the last kind of year or so, he's right up there in the kind of higher echelons in terms of progressive carries, dribbling stats, successful take-ons, etc. But just in terms of this clip here, and I think he had Pedro Porro on strings the whole game, but little jink in and out, gets the space. Pedro Porro doesn't know what to do with him. This is in the first 20 seconds, similar to how he got his assist against Man City in the first game. But ball comes in, and I'm going to give the finish a little bit of time, just because Match of the Day didn't, for something that will definitely be in their Goal of the Month reel. Didn't spend any time in it whatsoever, decided to wax lyrical about Tottenham, who were very good, granted, but this goal was of insane quality, and it's a finish Bryan Mbeumo has down to a T. I'm thinking about the playoff game against Swansea a couple of years back. The ball comes in from the left-hand side. I think it was Rico Henry that day, and he whips it in with his left, like curls the ball round, keeps it down nice and early. And I'm also thinking about the game against Aston Villa last year. That time it was on his right foot, but again, ball comes in from the left, and he manages to keep it down, keep it along the floor. This time he opts for a different finish, going high, which he couldn't have made this goal look any better if he wanted to. From the away end, absolute scenes again. We've just scored inside 22 seconds, and just an unbelievable start. And Bryan Mbeumo just keeps getting better and better, and I'm absolutely here for it. Just another screenshot to highlight how difficult this finish is. Where that ball comes into him, he's square on with the ball, so he's got to completely turn his body and completely get his foot up high enough so that he can control that ball and stroke it into the top left corner, and it's exactly what he does. But what an unbelievable finish. Match of the Day producers, do better. This is the next screenshot I just wanted to highlight, and we spoke about it on the podcast at length in terms of Tottenham's approach to this game and Tottenham's approach to every game. I thought that a criticism that I could level at Thomas Frank was that we were a little bit naive with our build-up play in this game. And Tottenham's intent was clear from very early on. This is in the second minute, and already Kulusevski is chasing down Mark Flecken like a dog. And We just couldn't deal with their high press throughout the whole game, especially with how uncomfortable we looked in those situations where we didn't have a Norgard to kind of pick up the ball off the back five. And it was Janelt doing that, and we're going to get to that. But this is the situation. This is the picture from Tottenham very early on, 2.5 minutes in. Kulusevski chasing down Flecken, put it to the next one, kicks it into touch. So Tottenham's intentions were clear from very early on, and we spoke about it on the pod. A little bit naive sometimes. I would have liked to see us go a bit longer, but then that raises the questions, who the hell are we going to go long to? Because we didn't have Schade, who's got the aerial presence, and Fabio and Mbumo, they're not really target men at all. I just want to highlight this because Craig mentioned it in the podcast, and it's about Ethan Pinnock. This is a chance for Tottenham just before they actually got their equaliser. He blocks a shot from James Maddison and goes down slightly awkwardly. I'm just going to move it along. And as you can see, 7 minutes in, he's grimacing a little bit. So I didn't actually notice this when we were in the away end, but Craig pointed it out and I managed to find the screenshot. This is literally the phase of play before we concede. So Ethan Pinnock's not in a good state here. I don't know whether he should have gone down, but as we know, Ethan Pinnock's injury record, he's not someone that is going to play every single game, every single season. We saw that last year, and we've seen that periodically throughout his Brentford career. But he's looking in a bit of discomfort there, and obviously we all know what happens next. Gives it away. Obviously, Janelt's moving towards Pinnock to try and occupy that space, but that pass was never on. It really was never on. Kulusevski closes down that space way too early for that line to be on. Janelt comes in, he's not calling for the ball, and Pinnock's pass is kind of into this area here, which is so easy for Maddison to read. And I feel sorry for Janelt because I think if he actually takes down Maddison in the next phase of play, when he's round the edge of the penalty box, he probably gets sent off. He doesn't, and it's just an awful pass. Lack of concentration from Ethan Pinnock, and we've spoken about Ethan Pinnock's start to the season on the latest episode of the podcast about how he probably is being asked to play out from the back way more than he's used to, considering we don't now have Tony and we don't have that out ball. It's going to take a bit of bedding in for Ethan Pinnock to get used to how much we're playing out from the back. In terms of the centre halves that we've got, you would say that Nathan Collins and Sepp van den Berg are way more comfortable on the ball than Ethan Pinnock is. But I have full faith in him. This is a guy who's gone from Forest Green Rovers to the Premier League in a very short space of time, and he's proved himself at every single level. So if there's anyone that can do it and add more facets to his game, it's definitely Ethan Pinnock. But just at the moment, I don't want to say he's had a bad start to the season. I just want to say that this was a bad game for him. But against City, I know it's Haaland. Haaland's inevitable. You can't really stop him. But apart from that, apart from Haaland's goal, which obviously he scores and that's the important thing, but apart from Haaland's goal, I thought Ethan Pinnock actually did really well to contain Man City's front line that day. So I don't want to slate him too much because he's been our best player for how many years now? One of the most underrated centre-backs in the league. But this game wasn't his best, and he's going to have to take some... It's going to take some time for him to get used to this new style of play that Frank wants to play this season. But yeah, small question marks around Flecken's save for this. I don't know. I didn't mention it on the podcast because I know that Craig gets angry whenever we criticise Flecken, but not angry whenever we criticise Flecken, but he's always the first to defend him. And I do think he could have done better here. Maddison kind of scuffs his shot. As you can see, he's kind of off balance because of the way that he scuffs the shot. And the ball, I mean, it's quite close to Mark Flecken there. I'm thinking, can he parry it that way? Can he catch it even? But instead, it goes straight to Solanke, and we know the score. Haven't criticised Mark Flecken in a while, so I think he probably could have done better with this, in my opinion. But anyway, moving on to the next screenshot, and James Maddison was just tormenting us this whole game. His ability to come into the pockets and beat our midfielders at will, it seemed like. I feel like that's an area of the pitch where we really, really missed Norgard's kind of destroyer capabilities. When Maddison was just cutting through our midfield, you could just sense Norgard's presence was so missed to just kind of take the tactical foul or win the ball or win your duels. Yeah, James Maddison absolutely terrorising our midfield all day long. We move it on there. I think, look, you got Damsgaard, Janelt, and Yarmo surrounding James Maddison. He gets past Yarmo, I think, in the first phase. Damsgaard's trying to screen the pass, but it doesn't work because Kulusevski's already got on his bike. And it's just another warning sign. The fact that Maddison had all three of our midfielders on strings the whole game, I think is something that Thomas Frank will be really upset with, because there is no doubt that Thomas Frank would have said before the game, if we can nullify Maddison's threat, we have every chance of winning this game. And we really, really struggled to cope with him. And Maddison has been on fire all season. Perhaps he's not had the goal return or the assist return that he would have hoped for, but in terms of Spurs and how they get going, he is that metronome in midfield, and we really, really struggled to contain him all day. I think this chance in the end gets played out to Brennan Johnson, who gives us a warning of the finish that he was going to pull off in a few minutes' time. But Maddison cutting through our midfield and breaking the lines was a big problem for us all day. Just want to highlight KLP again, having Pedro Porro on strings. I thought that was a really fun aspect of the game. Again, gets away from Pedro Porro, sidesteps him, has a shot on goal. But KLP, honestly, he's impressing me so much this season. I just need to see more goals and more assists to his game. I know he's got 2 assists so far this year, but I need to see more in terms of that return, because if he's going to be a winger and he's going to be explosive and he's going to be tricky, and it's weird with KLP because he's not got crazy pace, but somehow he gets the better of his fullback quite a lot, and I think it goes under the radar a little bit. But Pedro Porro, who is quite quick, is in everyone's fantasy team, as I know, but every time KLP got the ball, he was able to manipulate it in a way that he would get away from Pedro Porro and get space for a shot, like in this instance, or for an assist, like in the first goal. But yeah, KLP, tremendous. I'm really impressed with him this season. It's very difficult to see where he comes back into the team if we go back into a 4, because you'd imagine that KLP would be dropped for Sharda. But on current form, it's hard. It's really, really difficult, because Sharda, I don't think, is a striker. He should definitely play on the wing, and KLP is a winger, and he's been forced to play at wing back. But based on both of their showings in unfavoured positions, Sharda is striker and KLP is left wing back, you have to say KLP is making way more of an impression. This is Tottenham's second goal. It's really sloppy from out. It really is. Sepp Vandenberg picks up the ball. I think he has a scan just in the frame after this screenshot. Vitaly Janelt does over his left shoulder. James Maddison reads that scan perfectly, picks up the ball. He's already there. Vitaly's already telegraphed his pass, and it's okay giving the ball away against teams that don't like to counter attack and press so relentlessly. But against Tottenham, you give the ball away in this position when you've got Son, Dom Solanke, Brennan Johnson, and Maddison all there, and we've just got 3 players because KLP's all the way. You can just see his feet in the top right of your screen. We give the ball away here and we're in a 3v3, and it's exactly what happens. With a team like Tottenham, who I think have the highest percentage of turnovers high up the pitch this season, you cannot be giving the ball away so cheaply in these positions, especially when you've already committed men forward. And Vitaly Janelt gives the ball away, and so quickly Tottenham are in our penalty area. It's just like, look, between this 10 seconds of elapse and Tottenham are about to have a shot on goal and score the equaliser. On another day, I think Nathan Collins blocks this. I think it's just one of those. He's had such a great season so far. He commits here. He thinks Brennan Johnson's about to this shot. He commits. Brennan gets a yard on him. And then, we know the score from there. Buries it in the bottom left. Turns to our fans and shushes us, which I thought was quite funny. Obviously, we've got history of Brennan Johnson. He was supposed... Well, we'd been chasing him for a whole transfer window before he ended up going to Spurs. But yeah, the Brentford away section didn't like that, and neither did I. Right, moving on to the chance just before half-time. This reminded me of a chance against Arsenal in the League Cup, I believe. I spoke about this on our podcast. I need someone to fact-check this for me, but I think it's the same chance, where Johan Wissa robs Aaron Ramsdale of the ball in his own penalty area. And he has a pass on, I think maybe it's Mbumo or Wissa, has a pass on to Norgard in the 6-yard box for a tap-in. And the same thing happens here. Fabio Carvalho robs Vicario, gets the ball, lays it back to Mbumo. And just there, KLP, he has to, and I said this in the last video, I don't know why he's slightly reticent to be asking for the ball, but in this situation, it's hands up and it's give me the ball. Because if Brian Mbumo hears that scream, I'm not saying that he wasn't calling for it, but you've got to be a little bit more vocal, a little bit more animated, because you have to be screaming for that there. Another angle of it, is if he passes it to KLP, Romero's already committed, Van der Ven's already committed to going on the line. So they're not marking KLP. He's absolutely open in this situation. I know it's easy to say freeze framing, slowing it down, but the decision making there has got to be better. And KLP has to be screaming for that ball, because if he does, it's a tap-in and we're at 2-2 before we go into the break. Right, on to the big flashpoint from the game, or the one that's garnered the most attention outside of Brentford and Spurs fans. This is Ricario's handball outside of the box, and obviously it's happened. My thoughts on it is that it's not a red card for me. I don't think it's the denial of a clear goal-scoring opportunity. Thomas Frank said as much in his post-match interview, but I'm just going to play it through phase by phase and just pick out some of the talking points from the incident. So the ball comes in, Vicario flaps at it. We know he's not great in the air. This is the first phase, he catches it. This is the second phase when he brings it out of the penalty area, and you can see there that he is out of the penalty area and that ball is also out of the penalty area. So he's flapped it once now. I think he's flapped it twice, and he's going for this third touch there, which is clearly outside the box. And at this point, I have the only reason that he's flapping it away is because Damsgaard is there. So I do understand the argument that it is the denial of a clear goal scoring opportunity, because why else would he flap the ball away in that instance? It's obviously a reflex, but he's obviously worried enough to think, okay, well, if I'm going to pick up a card here, I may as well, because the Brentford player, i.e. Damsgaard, is right there. And as you can see, there's a clear shot on goal. I just don't think it's the denial of a clear goal scoring opportunity, because Damsgaard, if you see his body position, it's not like he's going to be able to take that ball, pluck it out of the air and get a shot on goal before Pedro Porro and Brennan Johnson are able to set in that position. But taking it forward there, you can clearly see that it's hit his hand outside the box. It's terrible officiating. And I just want to highlight the ref position here. How are you not seeing that he is outside of the box? I get that maybe the ball is behind him, but if you see his line of vision there, the ball and his eyes kind of look in line. How has he not seen that? That is outrageous for you not to see that. It seems like everyone else in the stadium saw that. Ayer ended up getting booked. Thomas Frank ended up getting booked. But the one person that matters in terms of spotting the incident and giving the decision didn't see it. And it's just beggars belief. Like I really do not understand how he's not seen that. Moving forward to, I think, Brentford's biggest chance to equalise in this game. Having looked at it again, I couldn't get the precise framing of Ayer actually passing it, but I do think there is a question of offside when it comes to this chance. It kind of comes from nowhere. Ayer, again, marauding run down the right like he was doing in the first half a lot, but he's just having such a great start to the season. I mentioned it in the last episode, but him at right wing back, really, really good. Really, really impressed so far. Drives with the ball down the right, feeds Mbumo, and you'd think from this position and the form that Brian Mbumo's been in that he's going to score, but I think there's only one way that he can go in this situation, unless he's really, really clever. But as you can see, he's not close enough to the ball to release that kind of finish in the near post. If he's closer to the ball and he's not leaning back as much, then I maybe could see him going near post and catching Vicario off guard. But Vicario's stance, he's already going to the right. So it's a fairly telegraphed finish. And if he was a bit closer, I could see, obviously, the near post finish. But he's already set to go to the right. So for Brian Mbumo to score in that position, it has to be a near-on perfect finish, which it's close to being. It's a really good save from Vicario, and he keeps Tottenham at 2-1 up. But I would have expected Brian Mbumo to finish this chance with the form that he's been in this season. But obviously, had it gone in, there's questions of offside, so I don't really want to focus on it too much. But yeah, at the time, big chance. I thought he had to score. This is just James Maddison tormenting our defence again. This time, Sepp van den Berg goes close to him. Maddison completely loses him. And this is about 20 minutes before Spurs got the 3-1 goal. But Maddison gets away from Sepp van den Berg so easily. Yarmo backs him up. Damsgaard backs him up, but neither of them can stop him. He drives through both of them, and I think at this point Damsgaard should actually foul Maddison, but he doesn't. Ends up with a chance with Son through on goal. And I don't know what was wrong with Son this day, but he seemed so reluctant to shoot when he got into these opportunities. And I do want to stress, whilst I'm pointing out Brentford's chances, I mentioned at the top, the quality of Tottenham's chances throughout this game, they should have been home and dry before Brentford even had a sniff of coming back into this game. I'm not saying that Brentford should have won this game. I'm not saying we should have come away with it with anything, because really and truly, Tottenham had enough chances to absolutely bury this game, and Son had enough on his own. But just the way they sliced through us at points, Tottenham, I'm not too disheartened about it just because it's Tottenham, and I think Tottenham, the way they play and the way Ange Postecgolou wants to play in terms of having a lot of the ball, creating high quality chances, high pressing, fast counter attacks, they're going to have these kinds of chances against all the teams that they play. They had enough of them in the North London derby in the first half. But no, Brentford, we did very well to stay in this game, to be honest. We really did, because like this chance here, Son's got to be scored. In any other season, I think Son scores, but for some reason he dilly-dallies with it, ends up playing it to Brennan Johnson, who releases a shot just past the Mark Flecken's wide post. But the warning signs were there for Brentford, they really were. This is 5 minutes later. This is Kevin Schada's chance. I'm not too sure that Schada can do too much with this one. Obviously, KLP hooks it out to Van den Berg, who I think puts in a clever screen on Brennan Johnson just at the top of your screen there to get the space and get away from him. Plays the perfect ball, I think. Wouldn't have expected him to play any of the ball. We got 1, 2, 3, 4 Brentford players in there, including Ethan Pinnock, Kevin Schada, and Christopher Ayer, who all have a lot of height. And we know about Schada's leap. We've seen it before. He's got an NBA player's jump, and he gets up, And this is just from this angle here, this is before Vicario's even made the save, with the power that Sharda generates on the header, you're thinking it's a goal, but credit to him because he looked shaky all day, but he did make some good saves, Vicario. And it's an aspect of his game. In terms of Tottenham's goalkeeper, there was lots made of the kind of comparison between David Raya and Vicario. But in terms of his shot-stopping ability, and it's a bit of a cliche, but he is a good shot-stopper. Goalkeepers are supposed to be good shot-stoppers, but in terms of the other aspects of his game, looking confident when balls come into the box, cross-collection, all of that, David Raya is streets ahead. And the fact that Tottenham had the chance to snap up David Raya and didn't meet their asking price, and now David Raya's gone to Arsenal, and it looks like he's going to be absolutely pivotal in what could be a title-winning season for them, I do find just a little bit funny. But anyway, back to this chance. Credit to him. Great save. I thought this was in. I really did think this was in. This is where Tottenham score. It was just Sharda gets away here, and this is like when we're absolutely going for it. Again, I think I want to highlight KLP's body language here. Sharda gets the ball. Obviously, drives a bit too far. It's a terrific challenge by Yves Bissouma, but just look at KLP's body language there. He's screaming, why? But I'm still not seeing him being animated enough in these positions. Like, I don't want to say he's too passive as a footballer, but I think he just needs to kind of believe in himself. He's getting into these great positions sometimes. I'm just not seeing the hands in the air, and obviously he probably is screaming, but I'm not seeing the hands in the air, give me the ball right now, because he gets past, like Pedro Porro's there, he gets past him in this phase of play, and if Sharda gives it to him, he's in with a chance on goal. And he gets frustrated afterwards, but I would like to see a little bit more, just the body language from KLP. I think it just needs to be a little bit more clear in terms of those situations. I want to see him absolutely screaming for the ball and getting forward a lot quicker. But like I said, he's had a fantastic start to the season, so I don't want to slate him too much. Anyway, the ball breaks. We know what happens from here. We get sliced open. Our defences are in 6s and 7s. The gaps between our midfield and our defence all day obviously was exploited by Tottenham and exploited by the fact that they play this insanely fast counter-attacking football with wingers pushed up high and the Solanke coming deep to bring others into play and Maddison breaking the lines with these passes. But the gaps between our defence and midfield at times was just, it's just so missed Norgard. It just so missed Norgard's presence just to be able to sit and dictate the play and break up the play. And people that said that Janelt was better as a 6 than Norgard, please, if this game doesn't serve as evidence, I don't know what game does, because Norgard's capabilities in that midfield of interceptions, blocks, tackles was so missed against the Tottenham team that like to break at pace, and they got behind us and in behind us so many times during this game. The scoreline was flattering. It really was. We had our chances, we really did, but the scoreline was flattering. Yeah, and that's it for this episode of the Tactical Breakdown. If you enjoyed it, let me know in the comments. Obviously, like I said at the top of the show, please do subscribe. We're trying to make this channel the kind of #1 Brentford content channel, not the Brentford podcast channel. But thank you for hitting 100 subs. That was really nice. The next goal I do want to hit would be 500, so please do share this channel around with your mates. From what I can tell in the comments last week, everyone really enjoyed this video. So if you know someone that you think will enjoy the video, tell them to come along, subscribe at MikeLiven5. Go check out the podcast if you haven't already. We did a good 45-minute chat on the Spurs game, looking ahead to West Ham as well. And yeah, hit the subscribe button below, and I'll see you next week.